Before we start the podcast, I'm going to read Matthew chapter 10, and then I'm going to read it at the end with, I think, a few tweaks that we can make to make it better. All right, so this is Matthew chapter 10, starting with line 5. Jesus sent out these 12 after instructing them thus: "Do not go into pagan territory or enter a Samaritan town. Go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Lost sheep. "As you go, make this proclamation: the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, drive out demons. Without cost you have received, without cost you are to give. Do not take gold or silver or copper for your belts, no sack for the journey, or a second tunic, or sandals, or walking stick. The laborer deserves his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, look for a worthy person in it and stay there until you leave. As you enter a house, wish it peace. If the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. If not, let your peace return to you. Whoever will not receive you or listen to your words, go outside that house or town and shake the dust from your feet. Amen, I say to you. It will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. Behold, I am sending you like sheep in the midst of wolves. So be shrewd as serpents and simple as doves. But beware of people, for they will hand you over to the courts and scourge you in their synagogues. And you will be led before governors and kings for my sake as a witness before them and the pagans. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. You will be given at that moment what you are to say. For it will not be you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will hand over brother to death, and the father his child. Children will rise up against parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but whoever endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to another. Amen, I say to you, you will not finish the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. No disciple is above his teacher, no slave above his master. It is enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher, for the slave that he become like his master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more those of his household? Therefore, do not be afraid of them. Nothing is concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be known. What I say to you in the darkness, speak in the light. What you hear whispered, proclaim on the housetops. And do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a small coin? Yet not one of them falls to the ground without your Father's knowledge. Even all the hairs of your head are counted. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Everyone who acknowledges me before others, I will acknowledge before my heavenly Father. But whoever denies me before others, I will deny before my heavenly Father. Do not think that I have come to bring peace upon the earth. I have come to bring not peace but the sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's enemies will be those of his household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Whoever receives you receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me. Whoever receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever receives a righteous man because he is righteous will receive a righteous man's reward. And whoever gives only a cup of cold water to one of these little ones to drink because he is a disciple, amen, I say to you, he will surely not lose his reward. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Catholics Against Militarism podcast. My name is Ellen, and in this episode, I am going to read you a bedtime story. So that's why I'm sitting on my bed. You just pretend that I'm tucking you in, get all cozy. Actually, I'm traveling also, so I'm not in my regular setup. The lighting here is total crap. Don't have a good setup for recording videos, but I'm going to try to keep recording while I'm traveling. And the story that I would like to read to you tonight is called Sheepdogs. And I got this a while back and I read it. It's called Sheepdogs Meet Our Nation's Warriors. The author of this little story for children is a guy named Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. And he wrote a book called On Killing, probably at least 10 years ago now. Maybe more. It might be like 20 years. I don't know how old it is. I don't have it with me, but he wrote that book and it was a big deal. It got widely promoted. And I read that book in the last few years and I had mixed feelings about it. I thought it was weird. It creeped me out. It really creeped me out because what it seemed to be and what it was promoted as was a book about the effects of killing. How does killing affect the human person? Under what conditions is a person willing to kill? How does it affect them afterwards? And it sort of purported to be like a well-researched book that was meant to help the military to help soldiers. Like, we have to help them by being better and more aware about what this does to people so that we can help them in recovery. That's what it was touted as. That's what everyone said it was. But when I read it, honestly, it seemed like it was sort of written like that at this certain level, but there was another level at which you could understand it. And it seemed to be more like a manual to me, honestly, like a manual of how do you override people's natural aversion to killing? Because we all have that. That's the natural law. People say that self-defense is the natural law, but it seems to me that the real natural law that God wrote on our hearts was thou shalt not kill, because we don't want to do that. Nobody wants to be in a position where they're going to have to kill another person, right? And so, unless you're like a total psycho. So it seemed to me that this book On Killing, written by Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, Dave Grossman, was meant to be like a let's help the soldiers, let's be more aware about how this hurts people. But underneath the surface, it was more about like, here's a manual on how to get people to kill. How do you override their natural aversion? And then, oh yeah, you might want to help them afterwards. But here are the things that we can do to get people to kill. Here are the situations under which people are willing to do it. So it seemed to me, I don't know, I just thought it was a creepy book. The purpose seemed kind of convoluted. And this guy, when you look into him, this Grossman guy, he wrote that book. It was so heavily promoted and it sold so many bazillions and bazillions of copies. And it's like, oh, it's like a standard like reading for everyone in the military now. But this guy is... sorry, I had to cut this section because everything that I remember reading about this guy a couple years ago has apparently been scrubbed from his Wikipedia page and I can't find it anywhere. So I'm just not going to say it because I can't prove it. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. I didn't do a ton of research. It's been a couple years since I read about him, honestly, and I didn't do a ton of research before this podcast, but I just remember thinking, interesting. He says that he has converted and he is now a Christian, and he seems to write books. Like there's another book, I don't have it with me, but it's called like a guide to spiritual warfare. And it's like a Bible for soldiers that mixes like Judeo-Christian spiritual stuff from the Bible with like military, like killing stuff. It's very strange. I'm going to critique that book. I'll do a review of it for you when I get around to reading it. But honestly, I opened it and I couldn't even read it. I was like, what is this? Like, this is not Christianity. It's not Christianity. It's like a weird blend, okay? And then I came across this book for kids. So that's what I'm going to read to you today with a little bit of commentary. So let's see what Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman has to say to kids. On the cover, we have like some scared little sheep in the background. We have this little sheep is cuddling up to this leg of a dog that's dressed in a soldier's outfit. It's weird. Okay, dedications to my own sheepdog and pups, and to all the families who love and frequently miss their own special sheepdog. Stephanie. I guess Stephanie Rogish is the woman who wrote this, and God bless her. I'm sorry, I didn't do a ton of research. I think she may have lost somebody. Former elementary school teacher, Stephanie is now a stay-at-home mom to 2 children. She married an Army MP who is now a federal agent. She spends much of her time volunteering at church and school and driving kids to activities. She feels children's literature is a valuable tool to teach kids just about anything. Through this book, she hopes her young readers will understand their parents' calling to be a sheepdog in a larger family of warriors. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, U.S. Army, retired. Director of the Warrior Science Group, founder of Killology.com, member American Board for Certification in Homeland Security, member American College of Forensic Examiners Institute. Grossman is an internationally recognized scholar, author, soldier, and speaker who's one of the world's foremost experts in the field of human aggression and the roots of violence and violent crime. Former West Point psychology professor of military science, and an Army Ranger who has combined his experiences to become the founder of a new field of scientific endeavor, which has been termed Killology. In this new field, he has made revolutionary new contributions to our understanding of killing in war. The psychological costs of war, the root causes of the current virus of violent crime that is raging around the world, and the process of healing the victims of violence in war and peace. He is the author of the books On Killing and On Combat. I don't know. It's like I study Homer. I read Homer with my literature students, and it's like there's nothing new that he said in On Killing that isn't in Homer. But whatever. To all the sheepdogs and their families, may you and yours be truly blessed as you bless so many through your daily sacrifice. And to all the lambs who did not have a sheepdog in their hour of need, for they are sparrows fallen at God's door. He will lift them up on his own great banner. But the folks who made them suffer so sore, he will deal with them in a different manner. Stephen Vincent Benet. All right, so then you have a memorial, like someone has died. The flag is draped over the coffin, and there's this sheepdog in a uniform there. This is called The Angel of the Night by Dave Grossman. So you've got some sheep down here in the fields, and you've got this watchdog up on the cliff. Fear not the night. Fear not the night. Fear that which walks the night. And I am that which walks the night. So from the beginning, it's saying, don't be afraid of the night. Be afraid of the fearful thing that walks in the night. And then he says, I am the fearful thing. I am the thing to be feared. But only evil need fear me. And gentle souls sleep safe in their beds because I walk the night. Carpe noctem, seize the night. Is that biblical? Is that biblical? I just have to ask. Let's keep going. We'll keep that in our minds. Next page. We've got a police dog, and then we've got some animal with horns, and then we've got some poor helpless sheep over here who have spilled their groceries. And the sheep look very helpless and innocent and gentle. This guy looks like he's a bad guy, and this guy looks like he's there to protect people. There are many kinds of sheep, black ones, white ones, some with horns, and others without. Regardless of what they look like, sheep are kind and gentle and can only hurt each other by accident. They go about their day eating, playing, or working together. Most of the time, the flock is happy, quiet, and calm. That is, until the wolf shows up. The wolf is not nice. Sure, he might seem friendly at first, but this is only to get the flock to trust him. If the sheep allow the wolf to get too close, they could be in danger. Wolves are predators and will feed off the flock. They might take things from the sheep or even hurt the sheep and their lambs. They have the tendency to be violent, but above all, they do not care about others. So here you have a nice sheep, and then the bad one back here. And here you have a nice sheep, and then you have the bad one. Sorry, the wolf. It takes a predator to catch a predator. So the sheepdogs spend a lifetime practicing their skills and their use of force. So this is a sheepdog, and he's crawling under, he's doing like the army crawl, right? He's training to be in the military. Now, okay, a lot of what's been said so far is true in terms of sheep and wolves, right? The wolf can't get too close, right? But let's see if this is matching up with the New Testament. Does Lieutenant Colonel Grossman understand the New Testament, and what part of this is matching up with the New Testament? I know there are sheep in the New Testament, right? Jesus says to Peter, "Feed my sheep." Do you love me? Yes, I love you, Lord. Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, I love you, Lord. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. Jesus says, feed my sheep. He does not say, protect my sheep. Okay? That's important. Key distinguishing thing here. He never says that. There are wolves, I believe, in the New Testament. Are there wolves? Well, there are predatory animals, right? Be wise as serpents, innocent as doves. We have to be wise. I don't think that correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's any metaphors that Jesus uses where he talks about sheepdogs. And sheepdogs are like a little bit more like a wolf, right? Dogs are more like a wolf, and there's no that doesn't exist in the New Testament. There's no role that I can think of where Jesus is like, protect my sheep, this is your role. That is maybe not in there. Okay, so this Grossman guy is, I see what he's trying to do, but in terms of Christianity, it's not really matching up. It takes a predator to catch a predator. So the sheepdogs spend a lifetime practicing their skills and their use of force. We do hear a lot about the shepherd. Jesus is the good shepherd. My sheep know my voice. But there are no sheepdogs in the New Testament, not to belabor the point. The sheepdogs nurture their desire to protect and guard the innocent. Sheep like to live their lives peacefully. They are happiest when they feel safe. The sheepdogs live amongst the flock. They shop at the same stores, go to church together, and go to the same movie theaters. Sometimes the sheep are frightened by the sheepdogs. This is because the sheepdogs look a little bit like the wolves with their fur, sharp teeth, and watchful eyes. It reminds the sheep that the wolves could be nearby, ready to harm them. So we've got more of these sheepdog characters dressed as cops, and they're frisking They're frisking another animal. Okay. They worry about the sheepdog and they are not sure they want him around. But when do they change their minds? When the wolf comes. Then the whole flock tries to hide behind the closest sheepdog. So here we've got a little scared sheep, and he's like cuddling up to the sheepdog who is strong. And then we've got some like police tape back there. So some kind of crime has happened. The wolf has done something bad and now everyone's afraid. Okay. When the wolf is in trouble and feels desperate to get away, he tries to hide behind the sheep or even the lambs. This coward will use the innocent as a shield because he doesn't care about their safety. So now we've got, again, these terrified and eerie and scary looking sheep being held hostage by the wolf. But sheepdogs are shields for lambs. They will stand in front of the little ones, protecting and shielding them with their own bodies. So we've got a military sheepdog in military garb with a little baby scared lamb, again cuddling up next to his legs. So safety comes from the sheepdog. And these lambs and these sheep are honestly pretty pathetic in this book. They're like a bunch of imbeciles, really. They're just scared constantly all the time unless they're safe, and then they're happy. Sheepdogs spend a lot of their time looking for the wolves. A wolf could be just across town or perhaps in the sheep's own neighborhood. A good sheepdog will check behind every tree and down all the dark streets. The sheepdog brings the light to the dark places where others fear to go. Interesting. There's the sheepdog in darkness bringing the light. Is that what the New Testament says? Is that what Jesus says about light and darkness? Is it the protectors and the sheepdogs of the world that bring the light? Do they bring the light? Do they dispel the darkness? Since it takes time and patience to catch a crafty wolf, that sheepdog may not be home in time for supper, or he may even miss his pup soccer game once in a while. So here's a mom sheepdog serving food to an empty table because the sheepdog is not able to be with his family because he has more important things he must attend to. Some wolf packs live far away. They spend their time planning and practicing how to harm flocks of sheep. They are always looking for a way to harm the unsuspecting, innocent sheep. Okay, so large groups of sheepdogs will go and hunt these wolves in distant lands. These brave sheepdogs will go into the wolf's den just to keep them from coming near their precious flock. Some wolf packs live far away. So this is a justification for going all the way halfway around the world to try to hunt terrorists or wolves or bad guys, right? So sometimes it's necessary to, invade foreign countries in order to find the bad guys that are there that want to hurt the sheep. The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike, and yet notwithstanding go out to meet it. Glory and danger alike. I mean, it's an interesting idea of glory, right? Glory. What is glory? Glory and danger. When this happens, these sheepdogs may be gone for a very long time. They will miss their pups' birthdays, school plays, and even holidays. So when soldiers have to go overseas to find the bad guys, they might be gone from their family, their kids might miss them, etc. Wolves do not like it when sheepdogs get too close to them and stop them from their mischief. They become angry and may attack a sheepdog. A tough sheepdog expects this and is ready for the fight. So this is the U.S. Coast Guard, and that's a wolf on a pirate ship or a ship of some kind. So you see the metaphors that are at work here, right? I'm sure the analogy is not lost on you. Okay, the wolf lives to destroy. The sheepdog lives to protect. The wolf, so I just want to make a little note here that I would add a little editorial and say, like, even though the sheepdogs destroy a lot, like entire countries when we go to war, infrastructure of other countries, hospitals, roads, they're doing it because they want to protect, whereas the wolf lives to destroy. So even though the outcome is the same, it all comes down to whether you're a good guy or a bad guy, I guess. And it just seems like this book is very clear that it's in their very nature that some people are just wolves, they're just bad, and others are good. And that's just all. That's the end of the story, right? The wolf says, might makes right. The wolf says that. But the sheepdog says, might alone is not strength, and compassion is not weakness. Okay, so the sheepdog doesn't say might makes right. He believes in compassion. Okay. Did you know some sheepdogs don't even wear uniforms? They can be moms and dads, teachers, or regular folks at regular jobs. They are prepared to confront the wolf and protect those around them. So here we have a literature teacher who is a female sheepdog of some kind. She's teaching literature. And there's a Shakespeare quote on the board. All things are ready if our minds be so. And the book that she's holding in her hand is American History. Okay. I don't know what that quote means, but I guess it has to do with preparation. Their loved ones may not even know they are sheepdogs until the moment of truth. When the wolf attacks, these special sheepdogs stand ready with the skills and courage of the uniformed sheepdogs. So here we have a reference to 9/11 with the plane and the guy who apparently said, let's roll, when he tried to take down the terrorists who were supposedly in the airplane. Okay, so sometimes people stand up for other people in a moment of danger. Sheep will die to protect the ones they love. Sheep will die to protect the ones they love. Only a sheepdog loves enough to die for other people's loved ones. Sheepdogs will die for people they don't even know. So sheepdogs here are clearly better than regular sheep, because regular sheep will only die to protect the people that they love. But the sheepdogs die for other people's loved ones. They will even die for people they don't even know. What's not stated here is that they will also kill people they don't even know. But when a sheepdog dies while protecting the innocent, that doesn't make him or her a hero. A little bit of a cliffhanger on this page. When a sheepdog dies while protecting the innocent, that doesn't make him a hero. They are heroes because they walk out of their doors every single day, prepared to lay down their lives for the flock. Prepared is in bold. It's not the act of dying for others that makes someone a hero. You're a hero because you're ready to die for others. And notice the verbiage, prepared to lay down their lives for the flock. It's very Jesus-y, isn't it? It's very Christian-ish. I don't know if it's Christian though. Christ laid down his life for us, sure, but he did that while being nonviolent and loving and forgiving his enemies. Huge difference between him and the policeman sheepdog, don't you think? This is so insidious. Now, I know there's a lot of Christians that would not have any issues with this book. They would think it's a great book for kids whose parents are in the military, blah, blah, blah. And I hate to insult anyone, but this is simply not, there are no sheepdogs in the New Testament. There's lots of sheep. There's lots of metaphors with Jesus as the good shepherd. Why don't Lieutenant Grossman, here's a picture of him. Lieutenant Grossman, why don't we work with that? Why don't we work with if you're a Christian, why don't we work with what's actually in the New Testament instead of creating new parables and new interpretations that align with your way of life? I think that's a very dangerous thing, is to create new stories and call them or insinuate that they're Christian to conform to your way of life instead of conforming your way of life to the way that Christ taught. That's what we're called to do as Christians, okay? And again, I'm not saying that this is because Grossman is not Christian or whatever. There are plenty of Christians who would agree with him and see it this way, but this is simply not in alignment with the New Testament. If we're talking about the parables in the Old Testament and the analogies that Jesus uses to try to show who he is and show the way of Christianity, this is not it. There are no sheepdogs. So prepared to lay down their lives for the flock is like laying, look what's in the background. Look what's in the background here. There's a little sign as the policeman is walking out his door that says, "Greater love has no one than this, that they give their life for their friends." John 15:3. What's always left out of that, and of course, so it's like there's no Christianity, there's no gospel verses in here until they pick and choose this one right here, right? The thing is, before that, Jesus says, "I call you my friends." And there's no greater love than those who lay down their life for their friends. So what Jesus is saying is there's no greater way to love me than to lay down your life for me. And that's not what's happening here. This is not, there's no Jesus in this book. That's the problem with the book. It's like teaching kids basically propaganda, claiming to be a Christian message, insinuating that's a Christian message, but Jesus is nowhere to be found in here. The Good Shepherd is nowhere to be found in here. What has replaced the Good Shepherd that Jesus is the policeman and the sheepdog that are completely fictional, made-up characters that Jesus never really talks about. Sorry, he just never does. If this was that important, if this was the greatest love, then I think Jesus would have talked about it. I think he would have mentioned it. People always bring up the centurion, like for years now when I've been doing this podcast, they're bringing up, well, what about the centurion? Like when Jesus met him, how come he didn't tell him he was doing anything wrong? He didn't tell him he was sinning. So it's like, well, yeah, but also he didn't thank him for his service. Like Jesus didn't look at the soldier and go, "Thank you so much for laying down your life for your friends. Thank you for your service. Thank you for doing what I want you to do." He didn't say that. He didn't say that. Being a hero, a true sheepdog, is not a flash of courage. It is a lifetime of sacrifice. Sometimes the ultimate love is not to sacrifice your life, but to live a life of sacrifice. That's true. I mean, I like that. I like that message. A life, we shouldn't be thinking of the ultimate love as just being a flash, one act, one time, right? It's a lifetime devoted to that. But sacrifice isn't about just giving up your life. It's not about putting yourself in danger and giving up your life. It's about love. It's about love. Their job is dangerous and most days thankless, but still the sheepdogs go out each day and do their job to the utmost of their ability, armed with love. Sorry. Armed with love. What kind of love? What kind of love? Because Jesus' love was nonviolent love of friends and enemies. He loved all. He didn't divide people between, they're the bad people, they're the good people, you can kill those people, and you love these people and you kill those. He didn't do that. He just didn't do it. They do this because they know if no one did it, our civilization could not exist. If there's one sentence in this book that I kind of disagree with, it's that, or that I kind of agree with, it's that one. They do this because they know if no one did it, our civilization could not exist. That's true. I mean, our civilization is founded on violence. That's true. Like every founding myth of Rome, of anything, it's like all founded on violence. And Rene Girard would say the same thing. But that is a huge question. That's something important to think about. Did Jesus come to save civilization? Did he come to save civilization, or did he come to save souls? And maybe that's why there's a difference between what he showed us as the way and what we do, which is not really in accordance with the way. Yeah, it's tricky because there's a lot of truth in this little book for kids, but it's so mixed up with lies and propaganda that it's hard to tell the difference. That's what happens when you remove Jesus. Like really, when you remove Jesus, we're just going to take Jesus out of the equation and then we're going to like write a Christian story without him. That's what happens. It's just this kind of like, yeah. In nature, the sheep is born a sheep. The wolf is born a wolf, and the sheepdog is born a sheepdog. That is the way they are born, and they can never be anything else. Okay, what? Wolves are not bad, and most dogs cannot save the day. They are just animals who play important roles in the balance of nature. Okay, now we've left the metaphor. We're talking literally about in nature, a sheep is born a sheep, the wolf is born a wolf, and the sheepdog is born a sheepdog. That's the way they are born, and they can never be anything else. Wolves are not bad, and most dogs cannot save the day. They are just animals who play important roles in the balance of nature. All right, so now we've left the metaphor. We're talking about actual nature. People are different. People can make the decision to be a sheepdog, a wolf, or a sheep. You can decide what you will be. Do you have what it takes to be a sheepdog? All right, so this is very condescending toward the people that are considered sheep. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. I'm sorry. I'm hoping the people who are listening to this, yes, that people are different. We have the opportunity to be good or bad. This book is clearly elevating the sheepdog, which doesn't exist in the New Testament. There's no real story about the sheepdog and protecting, but according to Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, that's the highest calling of man, is to be a sheepdog and protect other sheep and kill the wolves. This little boy is repeating very obediently, according to the propaganda that he has heard, "We sleep safely in our beds this night because rough men stand ready in the night to visit violence on those who would do harm to us." I get it. That's logical. It makes sense, but that's not Christianity. That's not why we sleep safely in our beds at night as Christians. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman. We don't sleep safely in our beds because the military is going around the world killing people supposedly on our behalf. That's not true. That's not what gives us safety as Christians. Who are the sheepdogs in your life? Place their photos here. So this is just this aggrandizement of, police and military discussion questions. What does courage mean to you? That's actually a good discussion question, and I would encourage anyone who wants to do this book with their kids to think about the gospel definition of courage and look at the lives of the saints instead of looking at the sheepdogs. Tell about a time when you showed courage. Good question. What does it mean to sacrifice? Also a good question. Give an example of a time when you had to sacrifice. What is civilization? I actually think this is kind of brilliant. What is civilization? That's actually a great question. But did Jesus come to save civilization? Did he not care about saving civilization? What is civilization founded on, and how does that's actually a great question. Kids should answer that question, and then they should talk about it in relationship to the role of violence. I think that'd be very good. What do you think the wolf means when he says might makes right? What does the sheepdog mean when he says compassion is not weakness? What is the difference between sacrificing your life and living a life of sacrifice? And I would add a few discussion questions. What is worth killing for? That's a great question at the end of this book. What is worth killing for? And did Jesus ever kill? Did Jesus ever hurt anyone? Did Jesus preach compassion? Or did he preach, was that what he preached? What are some other discussion questions that you would ask parents who want to read Sheepdog, Need Our Nation's Warriors with their kids? What are some other good discussion questions that should be asked? Those of you who have listened to the podcast for a long time probably have some ideas. But this is like Christianity without Christ. This is Christianity without the New Testament. Just throw John 17 or whatever that was in there, and then act as if all of this is in alignment with what Jesus taught. It's really just propaganda, and it's really upsetting. 500 years ago, we have another page. 500 years ago, a real knight, a true paladin named Erasmus, wrote about how to be strong while remaining virtuous in a dangerous world. First rule, increase your faith, even if the entire world appears mad. Faith in what? Increase your faith. Faith in what? Faith in who? Second rule, act upon your faith, even if you must undergo the loss of everything. Again, faith in what? Whose faith? Third rule, analyze your fears. You will find that things are not as bad as they appear. Okay. Fourth rule, make virtue the only goal of your life. Dedicate all your enthusiasm, all your effort, your leisure, as well as your business. All right, well, virtue is kind of a broad word. I think we need a definition of terms there. Fifth rule, turn away from material things. If you are greatly concerned with money, you will be weak of spirit. Okay, it's not bad. Sixth rule, train your mind to distinguish good and evil. Let your rule of government be determined by the common good. That makes no sense. Okay, train your mind to distinguish good and evil. Yes, very good. But the explanation is let your rule of government be determined by the common good. Okay, who's going to define the common good? Seventh rule, never let any setbacks stop you in your quest. We are not perfect. This only means we should try harder. Okay. Eighth rule, if you have frequent temptations, do not worry. Begin to worry when you do not have temptation, because that is a sure sign that you cannot distinguish good from evil. It's not bad. Ninth rule, always be prepared for an attack. Careful generals set guards even in times of peace. Yeah, but a real attack or a spiritual attack? Tenth rule, spit, as it were, in the face of danger. Keep a stirring quotation with you for encouragement. 11th rule, there are two dangers. One is giving up, the other is pride. After you have performed some worthy task, give all the credit to someone else. 12th rule, turn your weakness into virtue. If you are inclined to be selfish, make a deliberate effort to be giving. That's good. 13th rule, treat each battle as though it were your last, and you will finish in the end victorious. Okay. 14th, don't assume that doing good allows you to keep a few vices. The enemy you ignore the most is the one who conquers you. Good. I like that one. 15th rule, weigh your alternatives carefully. The wrong way will often seem easier than the right way. 16th rule, never admit defeat even if you have been wounded. The good soldier's painful wounds spur him to gather his strength. Always have a plan of action, so when the time comes for battle, you will know what to do. Calm your passions by seeing how little there is to gain. We often worry and scheme about trifling matters. Speak with yourself this way. If I do what I am considering, would I want my family to know about it? Virtue has its own reward. Once a person has it, they would not exchange it for anything. Life can be sad, difficult, and quick. Make it count for something. Since we do not know when death will come, act honorably every day. Repent your wrongs. Those who do not admit their faults have the most to fear. Okay. Erasmus. No. On sheep, wolves. Okay, the following text is an excerpt from On Combat by Dave Grossman and is the inspiration for creating this book for children. It's called On Sheeps, Wolves, and Sheepdogs. Honor never grows old, and honor rejoices the heart of age. It does so because honor is finally about defending those noble and worthy things that deserve defending, even if it comes at a high cost. In our time, that may mean social disapproval, public scorn, hardship, persecution, or as always, even death itself. The question remains, what is worth defending? What is worth dying for? What is worth living for? William J. Bennett, in a lecture to the United States Naval Academy, November 24th, 1997. They always ask the question, what's worth dying for, but they never ask the question, what is worth killing for? All right, so here's Dave Grossman's article. One Vietnam veteran, an old retired colonel, once said to me, most of the people in our society are sheep. They are kind, gentle, productive creatures who can only hurt one another by accident. Oh my gosh, what a naive view. What a naive view of humankind. What are you talking about? This is true. Remember, the murder rate is 6 per 100,000 per year, and the aggravated assault rate is 4 per 1,000 per year. What this means is that the vast majority of Americans are not inclined to hurt one another. Dude, anyone who's lived for a family in like 48 hours knows that's not true. That's not true. I mean, yeah, most people don't go around murdering people, but that's not the end-all be-all definition of violence. Some estimates say that 2 million Americans are victims of violent crimes every year, a tragic, staggering number, perhaps an all-time record of violent crime. But there are over 300 million Americans, which means that the odds of being a victim of violent crime is considerably less than 1 in 100 in any given year. Furthermore, since many violent crimes are committed by repeat offenders, the actual number of violent citizens is considerably less than 2 million. Thus, there is a paradox, and we must grasp both ends of the situation. We may well be in the most violent time in history, but violence is still remarkably rare. This is because most citizens are kind, decent people who are not capable of hurting each other except by accident or under extreme provocation. They are sheep. I mean nothing negative by calling them sheep. To me, it is like the pretty blue robin's egg. Inside it is soft and gooey, but someday it will grow into something wonderful. But the egg cannot survive without its hard blue shell. Police officers, soldiers, and other warriors are like that shell, and someday the civilization they protect will grow into something wonderful. When is that gonna happen? Because we've had sheepdogs since probably the beginning of human civilization. We're gonna wait another 2,000 years for that? For now, though, they need warriors to protect them from the predators. Then there are the wolves, the old veteran said, and the wolves feed on the sheep without mercy. Do you believe there are wolves out there who will feed on the flock without mercy? You better believe it. There are evil men in this world, and they are capable of evil deeds. The moment you forget that or pretend it is not so, you become a sheep. There is no safety in denial. Wait, hold on. So the sheep are in denial? Then there are the sheepdogs, he went on, and I'm a sheepdog. I live to protect the flock and confront the wolf. If you have no capacity for violence, then you are a healthy, productive citizen, a sheep. If you have a capacity for violence and no empathy for your fellow citizens, then you have defined an aggressive sociopath, a wolf. But what if you have a capacity for violence and a deep love for your fellow citizen? What do you have then? A sheepdog, a warrior, someone who is walking the hero's path. The hero's path? But is it the Christian path? Someone who can walk into the heart of darkness, into the universal human phobia, and walk out unscathed. Let me expand on this old soldier's excellent model of nobody walks out unscathed. Oh my gosh, there's so many things in this book that bother me, but nobody walks out unscathed. They say that, when Jesus appears to people, like the great saints have seen visions of Jesus and stuff, one of the signs that it's really him is that he has his wounds. The resurrected Jesus has his wounds. They have signs of his wounds. Thomas put his fingers in the wounds, right? So nobody, not even Jesus, is going to get out unscathed, so to speak. Let me expand on this old soldier's excellent model of sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. We know that the sheep live in denial. That's what makes them sheep. What does Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman believe about Christians? Does he think Christians live in denial? We live in a fairy tale world where we want to be nonviolent and follow Jesus because we are stupid and ignorant of reality and we live in denial? That seems to be what he thinks. They do not want to believe that there is evil in the world. They can accept the fact that fires can happen, which is why they want fire extinguishers, fire sprinklers, fire alarms, and fire exits throughout their kids' school. But many of them are outraged at the idea of putting on an armed police officer in their kids' school. Our children are thousands of times more likely to be killed or seriously injured by school violence than fire, but the sheep's only response to the possibility of violence is denial. The idea of someone coming to kill or harm their child is just too hard, and so they choose the path of denial. The sheep generally do not like the sheepdog. He looks a lot like the wolf. He has fangs and the capacity for violence. The difference, though, is that the sheepdog must not, cannot, and will not ever harm the sheep. Any sheepdog who intentionally, oh my gosh, if I could tell stories of the veterans who have come back from war and harmed people. Any sheepdog who intentionally harms the lowliest little lamb will be punished and removed. Really? Because I feel like there's an epidemic of rape in the military, and if you talk to people who have been in the military, they'll tell you that it's covered up, and they don't do a very good job of finding those people and kicking them out. The world cannot work any other way, at least not in a representative democracy or a republic such as ours. The world cannot work in any other way. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman assures us the world cannot work in any other way. Still, the sheepdog disturbs the sheep. He is a constant reminder that there are wolves in the land. They would prefer that he didn't tell them where to go or give them traffic tickets or stand at the ready in our airports in camouflage fatigues holding an M16. The sheep would much rather have the sheepdog cash in his fangs, spray paint himself white, and go bah. Until the wolf shows up, then the entire flock tries to hide behind the lonely sheepdog. The students, the victims at Columbine High School, were big, tough high school students, and under ordinary circumstances, they would not have had the time of day for a police officer. They were not bad kids, they just had nothing to say to a cop. When the school was under attack, however, and SWAT teams were clearing the rooms and hallways, the officers had to physically peel those clinging, sobbing kids off of them. This is how the little lambs feel about their sheepdog when the wolf is at the door. Here's how the sheep and the sheepdog think differently. The sheep pretend the wolf will never come, but the sheepdog lives for that day. After the attacks on September 11th, most citizens in America said, "Thank God I wasn't on one of those planes." The sheepdogs, the warriors, said, "Dear God, I wish I could have been on one of those planes. Maybe I could have made a difference." When you are truly transformed into a warrior and have truly invested yourself into warriorhood, you want to be there. You want to be able to make a difference. Look at what happened after September 11th when the wolf pounded hard on the door. Remember how America, more than ever before, felt differently about their law enforcement officers and military personnel? Remember how many times you heard the word hero? Understand that there is nothing morally superior about being a sheepdog. It's just what you choose to be. Also understand, the whole book seems to say that the sheepdog is morally superior, though. Also, understand that a sheepdog is a funny critter. He's always sniffing around on the perimeter, checking the breeze, barking at things that go bump in the night, and yearning for a righteous battle. That is, the young sheepdogs yearn for a righteous battle. The old sheepdogs are a little older and wiser, but they move to the sound of the guns when needed right along with the young ones. There's nothing morally superior about the sheepdog, the warrior, but he does have one real advantage, only one, and that is he is able to survive and thrive in an environment that destroys 98% of the population. There was research conducted a few years ago with individuals convicted of violent crimes. These cons were imprisoned for serious predatory crimes of violence, assaults, murders, and killing law enforcement officers. The vast majority said that they specifically targeted victims by body language, slumped walk, passive behavior, and lack of awareness. They chose their victims like big cats do in Africa when they select one out of the herd that's least able to protect itself. Some people may be destined to be sheep and others might be genetically primed to be wolves or sheepdogs, but I believe that most people can choose which one they want to be, and I'm proud to say that more and more Americans are choosing to become sheepdogs. 7 months after 9/11, Todd Beamer was honored in his hometown. Todd said, "Let's roll, blah, blah, in 1 hour, blah, blah. There's no safety for honest men except by believing all possible evil of evil men." Edmund Burke. In nature, the sheep, real sheep, are... So he's like, here's the point I like to emphasize, especially to the thousands of police officers and soldiers I speak to each year. In nature, the sheep, real sheep, are born as sheep. Sheepdogs are born that way, and so are wolves, but they didn't have a choice. You are not a critter. As a human being, you can be whatever you want to be. It's a conscious moral decision. If you want to be a sheep, then you can be a sheep, and that is okay. But you must understand the price you pay. When the wolf comes, you and your loved ones are going to die if there's not a sheepdog there to protect you. This is not Christian. If you want to be a sheep, you can be a sheep, but you must understand the price. When the wolf comes, I mean, I guess it kind of is Christian. When the wolf comes, you're going to die if there's not a sheepdog there to protect you, or you're going to die because you're following Christ and you want to love, as Christ loved. Well, love one another as I have loved you. If you want to be a wolf, you can be one, but the sheepdogs are going to hunt you down, and you'll never have rest, safety, trust, or love. But if you want to be a sheepdog and walk the warrior's path, then you must make a conscious and moral decision every day to dedicate, equip, and prepare yourself to thrive in that toxic, corrosive moment when the wolf comes knocking at the door. For example, many officers, look at the saints, look at the martyrs. Like, the wolf came knocking at the door. What happened? Like, how did they handle it? They didn't spend their life preparing to conquer the wolf, to kill the wolf, right? They didn't do it. That's not how they dedicated their lives. That's not what they spent their lives doing. For example, many officers carry their weapons in church. They are well concealed in ankle holsters, shoulder holsters. Anytime you go to some form of religious service, there's a very good chance that a police officer is carrying. You'll never know it until the wolf appears to massacre you and your loved ones. This guy is like, whew. I was training a group of police officers in Texas, and during the break, one officer asked his friend if he carried his weapon in church. The other cop replied, "I will never be caught without my gun in church." I asked why he felt so strongly about this, and he told me a cop he knew who was at a church massacre in Texas. In that incident, a mentally deranged person came in and killed 14 people. His own son was shot. Some individuals would be horrified if they knew that this police officer was carrying. They might call him paranoid and would scorn him. Yet these same individuals would be enraged and call for heads to roll if they found out that the airbags in their cars were defective or the fire extinguisher didn't work. They can accept the fact that fires and traffic accidents happen and that there must be safeguards against them. Their only response to the wolf, though, is denial. Well, there's a difference between a fire sprinkler that puts out a fire. It doesn't kill anyone or harm anyone. Neither does the airbag. Unless it's like, that's not there to... There's equating that to a warrior or a soldier whose job is to, kill people. It is denial that turns people into sheep. Sheep are psychologically destroyed by combat because their only defense is denial, which is counterproductive and destructive, resulting in fear, helplessness, and horror when the wolf shows up. I would actually argue, Lieutenant Dave Grossman, if I'm being honest, that I think it is the warriors and the sheepdogs that are in denial. They are the ones who are psychologically destroyed by combat, as is proven statistically by the numbers of suicides of warriors that come home. So the idea that you can sign up to go do this and you're going to be fine and you're just going to be as strong and healthy when you come home as you were when you left, that's kind of not true. I think that there's a lot of denial going on, and it's not really the sheep that are in denial. Denial kills you twice. It kills you once at your moment of truth when you are not psychologically prepared. You didn't bring your gun, and you didn't train. Your only defense was wishful thinking. Hope is not a strategy. Strategy for what? Denial kills you a second time because even if you do physically survive, you are psychologically shattered by your fear, helplessness, and horror at your moment of truth. Oh my gosh. Gavin de Becker puts it like this in Fear Less, his superb post 9/11 book, which should be a required reading for anyone trying to come to terms with our current world situation. Denial can be seductive, but it has an insidious side effect. For all the peace of mind deniers think they get by saying it isn't so, the fall they take when faced with new violence is all the more unsettling. Denial is a save now, pay later scheme, a contract written entirely in small print, for in the long run, the denying person knows the truth on some level. And so the warrior must strive to confront denial in all aspects of life and prepare himself for the day when evil comes. If you are a warrior who is legally authorized to carry a weapon and you step outside without that weapon, then you become a sheep, pretending that the bad man will not come today. No one can be on 24/7 for a lifetime. Everyone needs downtime. But if you are authorized to carry a weapon and you walk outside without it, just take a deep breath and say this to yourself. Bah. Then he says, this business of, okay, what? I want to know if he wrote this article before he converted to Christianity or after he converted to Christianity. Do you still see things the same way? Do you really believe that to be safe and to feel safe requires you to have a gun and be prepared to kill the wolf at any time? That's not what Christianity is all about, dude. That's just not it. And I'm not saying that Christians should be like completely helpless or like take your jujitsu or whatever, but this is just not Christian, Lieutenant Dave Grossman. Like, I invite you to read the New Testament again. I invite you to like listen to Behold the Lamb, like study this, put on the mind of Christ. This is not the mind of Christ. And as a Christian, we need to be trying to put that on. Yes, we're always going to have fear. Yes, there's always going to be danger, but we need to put on the mind of Christ, and more and more and more, we want to try to conform our lives to the will of God as revealed in Jesus Christ, not conform our lives to these made-up stories about sheepdogs that have nothing to do with Christ. This business of being a sheep or a sheepdog is not a yes-no dichotomy. It is not an all or nothing either-or choice. It's a matter of degrees, a continuum. On one end is an abject, head-in-the-sand sheep, and on the other hand is the ultimate warrior. Few people exist completely on one end or the other. Most of us live somewhere in between. Since 9/11, almost everyone in America took a step up that continuum away from denial. It's a step up, though. It's moving in the right direction, I assume. Not a step backwards, not a step down, a step up. So by becoming a more militarized society with more cops and TSA and militarized police departments, we're escaping denial, people. We're becoming wiser. The sheep took a few steps toward accepting and appreciating their warriors, and the warriors started taking their job more seriously. The degree to which you move up that continuum away from sheephood and denial is the degree to which you and your loved ones will survive physically and psychologically at your moment of truth. Okay, can we just, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, can you try to reconcile what you wrote here with your studies of Christianity and your knowledge of the faith, okay? Are we trying to survive physically? Is that what we're doing here? And is the moment of truth, we win if we physically survive on this earth for another day, and we lose if the wolf takes us out? Study the Christian martyrs. Study the lives of the saints. This isn't what it was about for like any of them, dude. Any of them. All right, well, that's my commentary on sheepdogs. The sheepdog brings the light to the dark places where others fear to go. Hey, so yeah, I promised you at the beginning that I would read Matthew 10 and that at the end I would offer some ideas for some little tweaks and revisions that we could make to improve it a little bit. It says Matthew 10:8, cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, drive out demons, protect the sheep. I think that we could add that in there. Without cost you have received, without cost you are to give, unless you're protecting the sheep, and then you should definitely get a paycheck for that. Like you should get a, and if you're in danger, you should get like more money, like hazard pay. Do not take gold or silver or copper for your belts, no sack for the journey, or a second tunic or sandals or walking stick, but definitely take your gun. So I would just add like, if especially if you're a sheepdog, take your gun. The laborer deserves his keep, and sheepdogs deserve their keep as well. Um, Whatever town or village you enter, look for a worthy person or a wolf. If you go to a town or a village in Afghanistan or Iraq, like, and you're over there, you can look for a worthy person and stay there until you leave. And as you enter the house, wish a peace. Or you can look for a wolf and then, like, get the wolf. If the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it and protect it. I would say, let your peace come upon it and protect it. If not, let your peace return to you. If the house is not worthy, then let your peace return to you. Whoever will not receive you or listen to your words, go outside that house or town and shake the dust from your feet, or bomb them, maybe bomb them until they accept you. Behold, I am sending you like sheep in the midst of wolves. So be shrewd as serpents, simple as doves, and as willing, be as use force like a sheepdog. Shrewd as serpents, simple as doves, use force like a sheepdog. I would add that in there just so we have that covered. But beware of people, for they will hand you over to the courts and scourge you in their synagogues. Now, who would it be who would be handing you over to the courts? They might look like a sheepdog. It's usually the sheepdogs that are out there handing people over to the courts. We're going to have to think about that one. We're going to have to tweak that a little bit. And you will be led before governors and kings for my sake. Who's going to do the leading? They might be sheepdogs. So it feels like we're going to need to work on this just a little bit. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. Brother will hand over brother to death, and the father's children. You'll be hated by all. I don't know what this has to do with sheepdogs. Therefore, do not be afraid of them. I would tweak that a little and say, you better be really afraid of the wolves and the people who are going to come get you because they're bad. And if you're not afraid of them, you are in denial. Denial. I would add in actually Matthew 10:26, be afraid of them, because denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Can we add that in there? Nothing is concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be known. This part with the concealment and the darkness, when I say to you in the darkness, what I say to you in the darkness, speak in the light, I would say, and if you're a sheepdog, bring the light. What you hear whispered, proclaim on the housetops. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Oh, that's going to be hard with the sheepdog thing. How can we make that more Judeo-Christian? Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, because I have sent out sheepdogs to protect you. I would add that in there. Be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. Are not two sparrows sold for a small coin? Even the hairs on your head are counted. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows, and I have sent the sheepdogs to protect you. I would just add that in there. Everyone who acknowledges me before others, I will acknowledge before my heavenly Father. But whoever denies me before others, I will deny before my heavenly Father. Anyway, yeah, those are some tweaks I would make. There's probably some more that we could throw in there, but I'm just gonna maybe send a few edits, like to the Pope or something. I hope you guys approve. All right, have a great night.